Hello everyone, it's Moolman, your garden, and day 3 has arrived. The coronavirus lockdown has got us all in our yards, out and about gardening by now, I'd hope. So today I'm going to chat to you a bit about propagation and actually taking little bits of plant and creating life itself. Can you believe that? And yes, so hopefully you've gone ahead and built yourself one of these little propagation stations like we spoke about yesterday. As you can see, I've just put something here in front, so obviously we can interact a bit. But typically I'd be working towards facing that way. Things are really a gardener's best friend. If you take the time to do them and do them right, they really reward you so well. It's one thing to take a little piece of plant and put it in soil and nurture it, slowly growing it as a baby into a shrubby bush of a plant you can then plant out into your garden. That's just the most amazing feeling, and then see how it grows throughout the seasons to come. I guess this is kind of that answer to why your cuttings aren't growing and your neighbors are, kind of thing. You know, these tips, if you follow them, they're bound to reap rewards. So first we're going to start off with the different soil mediums you need for proper cutting propagation. Now these are stem cuttings we're going to be making, and there's a few basic principles or things you want from your medium. You want some good drainage, you want some structure to your medium so it holds your cutting upright and just supports it until it's able to grow for itself. And then of course you want your soil to be sterile, because you can imagine like an open wound on your arm. If you had to cut open a plant, it stands a chance to get rots in there, and you don't want that at all when you're trying to grow some healthy little plants. So we want to keep everything sterile. Now I'm sure by now, speaking about sterile, the whole living world knows all too well about sterilizing by now, thanks to Mr. Coronavirus. And well, just keep that in mind when you make your cuttings as well. Of course, that rule applies not only to your hands and your surface where you're going to be working, or your propagation station as we know it by now, but also your tools, your equipment needs to be clean and sharp and, you know, sterilized, so you don't infect plants. Especially, and a lot of people forget this when making cuttings, when you're moving from the one plant to the next, you need to clean your tools in between. I mean, imagine a doctor coming out of some other oak's resectomy or whatever you call the one from the bottom, and then come and sticking his hands in your face. You know, you don't want cross-contamination. Another way you can use to sterilize your tools or your hands when you're making your propagations or your cuttings is, I like to have a little bowl of water somewhere nearby. Just give it a nice dose of water. Obviously you want to make your measurements right, and then any sort of a contact is really important. Fungicide, I've got a little oakie here. I've already got some of that in there, and you just want to make it according to the instructions of the label, definitely, and that you can then use. It's a fungicide, you know, it's going to keep your hands nice and fungi free. And obviously while you're at it, give your tools all a nice little rubbing of this fungicide, and that just makes us know for sure our tools are clean. So let's get into it and make some cuttings. Now firstly, you want to prepare your soil where you're going to be planting your cuttings, because you never want any cuttings lying around before you plant them, because I promise you that's a sure way to kill a cutting before you even give it a chance. So here's a terrific little soil mixture I use, and thanks to our friends at Conterra. They sponsored some products for this episode. Now you want to be using even parts, right? So I'm going to hit this off with some washed river sand. 1 part of washed river sand. And remember, you want to be doing this even parts, right? A third, a third, a third, a third. Right? Our clean river sand goes in. Obviously I've made sure this container is sterilized as well ahead of time. And then into our clean river sand, we're going to pop an equal part of just normal garden compost. Make sure this is sterile and from a reliable source. Garden compost you can use if you are confident that it's sterile and you don't have any weed seeds and contaminants in it. And into that, our last third is some palm peat. Palm or cocoa peat you can use as well. This one is a, well, sorry, it's palm peat, or you get the sphagnum peat is the other one. This little dude also comes from Colterra, and you get them in these blocks like this, or you also get it from, you get it in a bag, loose already. So this block, we've got to soak with some water. That's it. Now, while this is going, all busy swelling up for us, I'm going to get into one of our plants here. We're lucky enough to have quite a few choices. So let's climb into, shall we say, a lavender here. Here's a mother plant, or what you refer to as a mother plant. You use that term typically for the plant you're cutting from. You can use the palm peat, which this is, or you get a sphagnum peat as well. Typically your sphagnum peat will be a bit more acidic, but most of the times when you find it in a retail store or so, they've already neutralized the pH level, so you don't need to worry about any of that. So we're done with our soil, just for safety measures, just in case. Give us another little fungicide wrap there. Boom. Okay, so we're ready to start making our cuttings. Now, first thing we want it before we cut anything. I know you gardeners, I know what you do. You run out into the yard with a bucket and you just start hacking away at every little shrub you want to start planting and propagating. And that's as fun as that is, and yes, I'm guilty too. But we're talking about getting successful cuttings here, right? You want to beat that neighbor, remember. Okay, so before we start cutting, we're gonna go ahead and prepare where we're gonna be planting these little dudes. Okay, so let's just get our things out the way here. Okay, we've got our soil here. I'm just gonna put our little lavender aside for now. Don't fall over, my boy. Okay, that's it. I mean, you can use all sorts of different containers for your cuttings. Doesn't really matter, as long as you got drainage at the bottom, of course. And this mix works really well. I've got some good results for many years using this. As long as you follow the big rules, you'll be okay. So fill him up nicely. That's it. Now you can use, and then you'll see I just start tapping him in. Just a little bit of compaction, not too hard, just a little bit, just to make sure that when we water him, half of the stuff doesn't go flying out all over the place. Right? Pressure it a little bit, get some more medium in there. That's looking lovely. Okay, now we can get this okay one side. Very nice. We've got our medium in place. We're ready to start making our cuttings. And I've got my little tray here, just a normal, any sort of kitchen tray will do. Of course, that's fun when you steal the wife or the mothers or the hubbies, I guess, in some cases. That's it. Make sure you keep them nice and sterilized there. My sexy tears. And they're nice and naughty and sexy. Why? They're nice because they're clean, they're naughty because they're sharp, and they're sexy, well, because I like them. Anyway, so let's climb into our plant here. Now, typically you're going to be doing this in the garden, or you're welcome to do it alongside an established plant here in a container. So I'm going to be doing tip cuttings from this little dude over here. Okay, so I'll just cut off a little piece anywhere I like and put that aside for now. So you see there's our little growing tip. Here's the base of our cutting. Now anywhere from around 10 centimeters or so works perfect for tip cuttings. Right, so what we're doing is removing all the excess leaves here. And you'll see I'm just nipping it with my fingers, but I know they're sterile and clean. Okay, so we're just removing all this excess because, I mean, this little plant only has all the nutrients in this stick. That's all he's got, is this nutrients in this stick stored up, and he's got to create a whole new root system and leaves and become a little independent plant of his own with that little bit of energy stored up in there, because he can't draw any nutrients yet. You know, he doesn't have roots. You need roots to get nutrients into your plant. Of course, we leave some leaves on there as well so you can photosynthesize. Now, we want to get some rooting powder on this dude. Right, so I'm just going to score him right down at the bottom. And as you'll notice, I've made a cut right beneath that little node, is what you call that. You get a node and then you get an internode. So everywhere where the leaves are growing is a node, and anything else in between is an internode. And I'm just going to be scoring him here alongside the base of that first little node. All right? Why do we do that? So that we expose some of the cambium tissue, is what you call it, and it's that plant tissue that forms around these nodes, and that's the tissue where new growth gets formed from. Right? So the cambium tissue is formed around the nodes, and that can be used to grow roots. I'm just sticking them into the entire bottle of rooting hormone. Yeah, have a look at that. There we go. And now we get what I call a little fiddlestick. Okay, and our fiddlestick, of course, we gotta sterilize this dude as well. Okay, before we use him. Now we're gonna pick a little pocket, works from one side to the other, so you don't disrupt your plants while you're planting. Okay, so we're gonna make a little hole right in the center there. We're gonna stick our little cutting in nice and firm, and just slowly, carefully firm him down into his new little home. And voila, our first little baby is planted. So now that we've got our cuttings planted, looking lovely as they do, it's time to feed them a little bit of water. So we've got to water these guys in so they settle into their new little house. So there we go, cuttings done. Quite chuffed with them, to be honest. Got my labeling watered in nicely. I know they're nice and sterile. Any questions, feel free to hit us up with a comment. And yes, I'll get back to you definitely. So in the meantime, good luck with the Corona bee. I'll be gardening. Till next time, I've been Moolman, your garden guy. Thank you for your time. Have a good one.